Hong Kong, like other parts of China, does not recognize dual nationality. That is the foreign travel advice updated by the UK government on February the 8th. The announcement is based on China's response to the UK's unilateral change to a visa scheme called the British Nationals Overseas, or BNO. The change creates pathways of UK permanent residence and citizenship for Hong Kong BNO visa holders. And today I'm going to ask, how might this change potentially impact Hong Kong's political life, especially its electoral system, and in what specific ways? I'm pleased to be joined from Hong Kong by Maria Tam Wai-Chu, Deputy Director of the Basic Law Committee of Hong Kong's Special Administrative Region of the Standing Committee of the National People's Congress. Maria, thank you very much for joining us. So,
Thank you for asking.
According to media reports, more than 50 Hong Kong people were arrested in January for interfering in Hong Kong elections, and legal experts have been warning that anti-China saboteurs in Hong Kong are using elections as a tool or attempting to manipulate elections. They have been calling for loopholes for the electoral systems to be closed. How do you see the security of Hong Kong's electoral system, and how secure or insecure is it at this moment?
Oh, right now, it's not very secure. A little bit of information on the history. 1980, Sir Mary McLehose, who was then the governor of Hong Kong, went up to Beijing and got notification that sovereignty will be reverted back to China by 1997. 1981, UK passed the Immigration Act, which changed all the citizens of UK and colonies in Hong Kong into a new category of British nationals called British Dependentary Citizens. So what happened is that, in short, it's called BDTC. So the BDTCs have no right of vote in Britain. The joint declaration, after 2 years of negotiation, was completed and signed in December 1984. At the same time, the Chinese and the British government exchanged a memorandum in which the British government says that they will issue a passport to the BDTCs who will no longer be eligible after the 1st of July 1997, and give them a new passport, which later on turned out to the British National Overseas. And this class of British nationals will not be given the right of a vote in UK. On the understanding of that, the Chinese government says, we're going to take all back the BDTCs. We accept them as Chinese nationals and give them the right of a vote in Hong Kong. Mm-hmm. By the time we draft the Basic Law in 1985, the memorandums are already exchanged and effective. So in Article 26 of the Basic Law, we give everybody who's got a right of a vote in Hong Kong the right to vote and be elected to the Hong Kong legislature. Mm-hmm. So what happened is that the political rights been given on the understanding that this 2.6 to 2.9 million BDTCs are Chinese nationals without the right of vote in UK. The recent announcement of the new scheme, which is a 5+1 scheme, that is, it's a special channel for BNOs from Hong Kong to live 5 years in UK, and then after 1 year of permanent residence, they be given the right of vote in UK. The effect of that is that we have practically about 2.6 million Hong Kong BDTCs who are potential citizens of UK with right of vote in UK. Mm-hmm. And this, of course, will affect our political system in the sense that the majority of the voters have a different nationality and a different right of a vote.
Well, help us understand that little bit of specific background here, because as we see in the Basic Law, it doesn't actually stipulate that only people with Chinese nationality has the right to be elected as legislators. This is actually quite different from the practice of the great majority of country in this world, where they would say you have to be, for instance, an American national to be able to be elected an American legislator. What was the background of that? Why was Hong Kong tolerating that people who are not Hong Kong or Chinese nationals but have the right of a vote in Hong Kong to run for the legislature?
You're absolutely right. In every country, only your own nationals has the right to vote or be elected. This political right is exclusive. As far as China is concerned, we have the same thing in the Chinese constitution, which says Chinese nationals of over 18 years of age have the right to be elected or vote. What happened in Hong Kong is that because of the history background, it being a very international city and lots of Hong Kong residents do have a social and family network and business network linked up with nationals who are non-Chinese or who have right to vote elsewhere. And the central government at that point, while we drafted the basic law, as I said, on the understanding that at least 2.6 million people in Hong Kong are sort of stable Hong Kong belongers, decided to keep the international element in the Hong Kong structure. And the other reason is because it is not a national level election, it's a local level election. So in order to sustain and strengthen Hong Kong's international network and the family network, they've decided to give votes to whoever's got a right of vote, regardless of the nationality.
Yeah, what kind of loophole, however, does that, or what kind of potential problems does that create for the security, let's say, of Hong Kong's election process, especially now that the BNO scheme has been changed unilaterally by the UK, basically enforcing China to stop recognizing the BNO. What is the implication on the security of Hong Kong's electoral system?
Well, I've already said that now that over 2.6 million of Hong Kong people will have right of a vote in Hong Kong and a special channel to have right of vote in UK. Last year and in 2019, we had a failed color revolution in Hong Kong. The streets were full of people in black, and you've probably seen from television, they set fire even to the Court of Final Appeal outside of the court, and there are people being assaulted for claiming that I am Chinese. So because of that, we suddenly realized that in Hong Kong, there could be a very strong influence on our stability through this violent and unlawful acts in the streets, which at the same time, there were British flags and US flags flying all around. And at the same time, there are people flying flags which says, we have a revolution of our time. Fortunately, with the help of the excellent Hong Kong police force, it was able to be controlled. And now with the national security law enacted by the central government for Hong Kong, we've returned to normalcy in terms of law and order. So what we can see here is that if you have no allegiance within the Hong Kong community towards your own government, towards your own country, there's always a risk of infiltration by external influences, which will derail Hong Kong's development and the one country, two system, which we treasure and which we want to carry on.
Well, with the latest changes, first on the UK side, then from China, to stop recognizing the BNO, what do BNO holders have to do at this moment?
Okay. My personal view is that China's taken a necessary step to say, look, we don't recognize the BNO anymore as a document of identification. So if you are a Hong Kong person with the right of vote, and if you are Chinese in origin, then you can get the Hong Kong passport, which enables you to travel around the world. And at the same time, if you're going in and out of Hong Kong, you can use your permanent ID card. So for a majority of the 2.6 persons that I was talking about, the real effect is very small. I think the idea is not to make life too difficult for those who are BNOs with right of vote in Hong Kong. They are Chinese nationals still. But it would be necessary to think up some ways of protecting the electoral system or the political structure in terms of making sure that the civil servants and those who are in public office pledge and really give allegiance to the SAR government and the PRC and uphold the basic law. So we can work on those aspects. At the moment, the Hong Kong government is thinking of enacting a law in respect of the oath of allegiance, which says you have to pledge allegiance to the Hong Kong SAR and uphold the basic law. And the National People's Congress Standing Committee has made an interpretation on that, which says that you have to pledge allegiance to PRC, the SAR, as well as uphold the basic law. And the civil servants who are employed by the Hong Kong government from the 1st of July this year will all have to pledge allegiance. And the existing civil servants are doing it one group after another.
Why do you think the UK unilaterally decided to change the BNO scheme? Because basically they will trigger a reaction from Beijing, and foreseeably this would make those people with a BNO holder, with a BNO visa, to make a choice between either being permanent residents in the UK or being permanent residents in Hong Kong, and delegitimize many people for running for public office or legislator?
Well, our chief executive says very clearly that it is a scheme for economic gain veiled as a political or humanity issue. Basically, I think UK's economy is in a downturn. It may carry on. And at the moment, life is difficult in UK. It will certainly help to be able to cream off the human and financial resources in Hong Kong or from Hong Kong. I'm sure it will help the national coffer. And besides, at the end of the day, 5-6 years from now, when the litmus test really comes as to whether you give somebody the right of vote in UK, you can always turn them down.
Well, it's a really very, very complicated issue, and a lot of background information is needed, but we'll keep paying attention to this topic. And many thanks to Maria for giving us these very important context. Thank you very much. And with that, we come to the end of this edition of The Point with me, Liu Xin. As always, you can follow me on Facebook and Twitter using the handle Liu Xin in Beijing. Download the application called CGTN to watch the show on your mobile devices, or go to YouTube and look for CGTN The Point. Thanks for watching. You've got The Point.